Hello everyone, Jesse Webb, TradersPro. Sorry for the delay the last few days. I've been out of town with kids on spring break and didn't have a decent spot to be able to do any updates. So I apologize about that, but we'll get back on track here. Market conditions bullish in a bear market. We saw a little bit of a pullback yesterday on S&P 500, but we still are seeing some constructively bullish setups here. There's only one, well, there's a couple of bearish things here in the shorter term. We'll take a look at that. The shorter term patterns here, we've seen momentum spike all the way back up to this upper range, so not surprising to see a little bit of a pause right here as we're a little bit overbought in these conditions. We're not seeing breadth move up that aggressively quite yet. There's a number that I'll show you here that might tick that over the edge. Sentiment also sitting still bullish. One of the bearish situations is the buy-sell ratio. It's kind of stuck right in the middle here. You're seeing this, there's some volatility. It went from buy back to sell, and we certainly have seen that in the past, where you kind of get these little in-between tug of wars that are happening at these locations, and which one's going to win is still yet to be determined here. Although I've mentioned this pattern here where we see a little bit of a pullback sometimes, and then things cross over. We'll see if that ends up taking place here. Sentiment, we're right up here at this upper range on S&P 500. We're seeing the upper range on NASDAQ. We're seeing not quite the bottom range on volatility, but it's set up to a point where we may see some kind of a bounce here. Bonds is an interesting chart. I'll actually go in and look at the chart here in just a minute, but we're seeing some locations here where we may see some resistance. If we take a look at SPY, and you can see it's actually a pretty bullish looking chart still in terms of this overall bottoming looking pattern here, where you're getting these higher low. So we'll see if this ends up holding this bullish pattern that we've got here. Again, this just so far is looking like a retracement of this move here. So this uptrend retracing, pulling back to some support, and we'll see if we get a bounce right here and continue. If we can work on breaking out towards these upper ranges, then we could see some continuation of that overall trend. But this upper resistance looks like it's going to be tested here in the short term. We're working towards getting that long-term trend signal out of the way. Part of that has to do with this directional alert signal. You can see as it's gradually moving, we are slowly cruising along here up this wall of worry, essentially, where markets have been back and forth, and really just a lot of volatility happening in the market right here, and that can happen in a bottoming process. If we also look at the indices, and we look at the Dow, we've been talking about that a little bit. We've got 20 Dow stocks that are back in this uptrend, so we're starting to see some solid big cap, large cap companies that are moving into that new uptrend. S&P 500 has got a buy-sell ratio of 3, so you've got quite a few that are stuck in that hold range, and probably very close to jumping over onto that buy side. Again, bullish breadth happening there in the market. If we look at some of these shorter term ETFs, we're seeing bonds having this big move, which should mean that interest rates are also looking to come back down again, or at least hold. We have these bonds trending higher, and that means that interest rates are going lower. So if we see this bond trend, we see that it may be forecasting that it already has been forecasting interest rates stabilizing or moving lower. We'll see if that continues to hold, and if the Fed holds there as well. One of the things I wanted to mention today, the muscle stocks list. Muscle stocks list are just the strongest stocks in the database, and a lot of times you can watch for those stocks to pull back into a buy zone. Oftentimes they're pretty high flyers, and they'll have these big moves, and they'll bump up to the extreme. But if you can wait for them to pull back into this buy zone, it creates a good-looking opportunity here of some stocks that have really, some real movement in them. And I know we get a lot of traders that want that. They want stocks that have the potential to move pretty quickly. This is a great place to be able to look, because you're going to get stocks that are in this entire range here, from this buy zone all the way up to that extreme zone, and And then if they can get a little bit of a pullback, here's a good example of a stock that's in a, it's a real strong uptrend. 100 strength rank, it's the strongest, one of the strongest in the group. Here it's up 300% this year, and big gap. It's, pullback. These are the buy the dip type scenarios where it's pulling back a little bit. And ideally, you want a little bit of confirmation, as we've talked about, something to show you there's a little bit of support and a little bullishness in there, especially once it pulls back into some of these ranges. But keep your eye on that list as you're scanning through that and seeing stocks that fall back out of this extreme range and pull back into that buy zone. Then you've got a high probability trade in that setup right there. So let's take a look at a few. Here's a couple others. Here's some good examples too. BMEA, where they have it was extreme and it had this really big run up, and it just needs some time to pause. It doesn't take it out of that buy zone, but it just needs some time to pause and retrace some of those big moves. And then these are locations where you can look to pick those kind of stocks back up. And there's a decent few in that list this morning, where here's another good example where you've got the uptrend. It was just too far too fast, and it needs a little bit of a chance to pull back and pause. Not necessarily aggressive selling, but it just needs it's some profit taking or just flat out trading that's happening right here. So keep an eye on that group today. We have let's run over to the muscle stocks group and take a look at the new buys and see what we've got inside that list today. I saw Merck was in there today. Big trade or big uptrend move the last few days on Merck, and mostly medical stocks are the ones that have been moving the last few days, and that seems to be the common theme right here in this setup today as well. Grand Canyon, that's a school stock. You've seen that in educational learning stocks. They've been ebbing and flowing the last couple of years with COVID. And here's another IT stock. So here's a utility stock. It's a nice looking pattern on that utility stock, where you have a good solid trending move here, and then this long consolidation phase, and then a good solid confirmation bar right here on this stock. That's SJW. It's a utility stock, water supply. It looks like nice looking setup there. If you don't have full access to the site, you can sign up with the link below, and we look forward to having you. Have a great day today.